Grafting compound. Here's a young tree that we cut off, put a bark graft in there, put aluminum foil over it and a plastic magnet and tied it off, put a little bit of Elmer's glue on the tip here, and they just do just as well as one done with grafting compound. Here's a bridge graft. You can see the sun-scald injury in this case that's being bridged over, or in this case a rabbit girdled the tree. And when you put these grafts in, you want to put them in about an inch apart. Those are a little bit too far, but you basically clean the cut off, take your dormant cyan wood, make a slice here, make a slice in the bark, slide it under when the bark is slipping, tack it in, then you bow it out a little bit and slide this sliced top in there and tack it in, so you've got a little bow there that accounts for the wind blowing that tree as it flexes, and cover it with grafting compound, and that can save your tree if it's not girdled more than about 60%. If it's girdled 100%, it's kind of hard to save those trees with those little twigs in there. Cut the top of the tree back pretty well so you reduce the amount of water that tree needs, and you can save a lot of those trees. Here's a situation that we're probably going to see a lot of this year, where the voles got in underneath the snow and ate the bark off the roots. That snow protects those voles from the hawks, and they just go to town on our trees if you don't have any rodent bait out there. So what you can do is take one of these rootstocks here from tonight, or a couple of them, and plant them next to the tree and in-arc that in, or graft it into the trunk and put a new root system on that tree. Budding is done if you buy a tree from a commercial nursery. They're generally budded. It takes less material. It's really fast to do. This is the wrong time to bud trees right now in the winter, but we can bud in the spring with either dormant cyan wood or young shoots that have grown, or a lot of times trees are budded in the fall. If you buy a tree at a commercial nursery, these were fall budded trees typically. This is a T-bud. You make a slice in the bark when the bark is slipping, and make the T down here, and you take your either dormant bud or young growth off the tree and slice a bud out of the middle of the shoot. Slide it in there and cover it up with a budding band or rubber band. Don't cover the bud up. And then when that bud starts breaking or growing, you can cut the top of the tree off and force that whole tree from one bud. This is another shot of a T-bud right here. There's a bud that's healed in. If you use dormant wood, dormant graft wood here, and put a bud in a tree, as soon as that's healed in, that bud will start growing, and then you can cut the tree off. If you use wood that grows during the current season in July or August, that bud will essentially stay dormant until it gets a chilling period over the winter, and then the next spring it will start growing, and then you cut the tree off and force it from that bud. If you're budding, if you want to get your tree to take, you've got to keep that rootstock watered really well. That rootstock's got to be growing vigorously for your bud to heal in. If it's sitting there in drought stress, you're kind of wasting your time. This is a pawpaw. It's been chip budded. That's basically where you take a cut out of your stock, take a bud out of the stock, and make an identical cut out of your, you take a cut out of your cyan, make an identical cut out of the stock, and replace the cut in the stock with your cyan bud and tie it in. This is what you can expect if you do a really good job with wood grafting. If you get your tree up to this tall, you've done really well with fertilizing it and watering it. And real critical things for growing them this year is get that fertilizer on early, keep it watered, and keep it weeded. And those trees should grow pretty well for you. But if you let the grass grow up around them, that grass competes better than the tree for nutrients and water, and you'll grow grass. This is a commercial nursery, and the way they grow trees is they take this rootstock that you get tonight, and they plant it out in the field, and they grow it for the season. Then they bud it in late July or August, and then cut it off in the spring, and that big root system grows a really big tree the first year. And when you've got a really vigorous root system under there, and that tree's growing real vigorously, you get nice wide branch angles on the tree, and you get a tree with a nice structure for training. Sometimes we have incompatibility. Some things like stamen wine sap aren't real compatible with some rootstocks. We get overgrowth and undergrowth. But what happens is when they're not staked with dwarf rootstocks, they can snap off to the graft union like that. So that's a big loss on a tree. We have fire blight problems. Big problem with fire blight on young trees. We can get fire blight down here at this graft union and lose our tree that way. We've had a problem with borers. These are dogwood borers in our bud 9 rootstocks at the university in our organic planting. And that's what you can dig out of the tree this time of year. And they don't do the trees any good. We can spray for that. Voles, that's a shrew. That's a shrew right down there. That's a dark gray color. It's got a short tail. That's a little insect feeder. There's a mouse with a long tail. That's a pine vole. We've got 3 different types of voles, but this is what they do to your fruit tree underneath the snow. And in the winter, if you're not baiting them or don't have it dead around the base of the tree. So you're not going to get a tree like that to grow, I guarantee it. A little bit of a management problem. This is what happens when you turn the farm crew free with a weed eater and they work on your grass. So get a lot of questions about what can we graft on what. You're not going to be grafting apples on pear trees. Apple pretty much goes on apple. Pear, quince, and hawthorn are all compatible. You can graft peach, nectarines, and plums all on one tree. You can graft blueberries and sparkleberries together. Sparkleberry is a native plant here. It's Vaccinium arboretum. And this is one out in Oregon where we've got the sparkleberry down here and the blueberry grafted on top. So they make a blueberry tree. You say, well, why would I want a blueberry tree? Well, out in Oregon, I was in a field of 300 acres or so of blueberries and blackberries and raspberries, and it's all machine harvested. And when you've got a blueberry plant that's got all these shoots coming out of the ground, you lose a lot of those blueberries when that machine's going through there on the ground. So if they had a tree trunk, they could catch most of those blueberries. So they're really interested in blueberry trees out there. Pecan and hickory are compatible. You always want to graft a hickory onto a pecan because it takes about 20 years to get a good crop on a hickory tree. And the hickory rootstocks grow a lot slower than pecan rootstocks. So you want something that will push that tree. So pecan is the best rootstock for a hickory tree. Black walnuts, Persian walnuts, and butternuts are all compatible, but they are tough to graft. That's a challenge to get those grafts to take. So I think I'll stop there and we'll do a little bit of demonstration here. You got an extra rootstock right there? Pardon me? Doesn't matter. We've got 2 types of graft wood here. We've got pear graft wood over here, and we've got the apple graft wood on this table. While he's getting that rootstock, I'll tell you a little bit about the pears that I know. This is Magnus. This is a really fire blight resistant pear. It is a tough one to pollinate and get good yields on, but it's a very high quality pear. This is Olympic or Korean giant. This is an Asian pear, one of those apple type pears. Different species from a European pear. Right here we have Maxine or Starking Delicious pear. That's an older variety. This is Blake's Pride. This is a newer one out of the USDA station in West Virginia. The Appalachian Fruit Research Station. This is a really nice pear. I think it's a lot better than Bartlett. Here we have Moon Glow. This is another European pear, an older variety. All of these have fire blight resistance, okay? That's really important in pears. Old-fashioned pear. I'm not sure what that one is. Y-O-I-K-A Asian pear. That may not have come off the label quite right. It's an Asian pear. Korean, this is Korean. This is Korean giant. It's the same as Olympic right here, so I'll put those both together. That's an Asian pear. Maybe I'll put the Asian pears over here. Separate those out. This is Ayers. This is a European pear. This is a variety that is an old variety. We have an apple grower that by the name of Larry Ayers in Oldham, well, around Frankfurt. He's got some of these. Harvest Gold European pear. I'm not familiar with that one. And this one is Shinsui, another Asian pear right here. So there's 3 Asian pears to select from. Asian pears are apple-shaped. They are picked when they're ripe. They're very juicy, tend to be pretty sweet, have a real thick skin on them. Asian people tend to peel them before they eat them. Some people like them, some people don't. European pears are more the melting type flesh pear, but 2 different species. They are picked when they're mature enough to ripen up, but you don't let European pears ripen on the tree, because you get a nice European pear that's ripe on the tree, you bite into it, it's brown and mushy on the inside. They don't ripen uniformly typically. And once they're ripe on the tree, you don't have any storage life. You better be making pear butter by the gallons when they come in. Okay. Okay, we've got some graft wood here. First, we want to match them up in size a little bit. This is Priscilla. This is a disease-resistant pear variety. And what we're going to do is we're going to make our first cut. This is usually a place where people don't cut themselves, but this is a bad way to use your knife, particularly for your guy that's sitting next to you, okay? So the best way to make a good cut is to hold your knife like this and pull the stick, okay? You're not going to cut yourself if you're just pulling the stick. You hold the knife still. What we're going to do is make a cut, and you want to make a real flat cut. And if the first cut doesn't go real well, like they normally do, just take a thin slice off of there. So we made a cut in our stock. And we want to go over here to our cyan. It's about the same size. And we'll make an identical cut. Okay, and what you want is a nice flat cut, okay? If you got a dull knife, you're going to make a concave cut, or you're going to make an irregular one. These don't have to be perfect. Okay, then the second type of cut is where people whack themselves, okay? I guarantee if you're making a cut like this, that stick's going to break and you're going to whack yourself, okay? You got lots of Band-Aids, right?
You know where the hospital is.
You guys are off a farm, you got strong wrists. Stick your thumb down here and use the muscles in your wrist to make this cut. Then you won't cut yourself. Okay, 1/3 to 1/4 of the way down from the top. If you go halfway down, it's not going to work because it's going to overlap too much. So 1/3 to 1/4 of the way down from the top, you put your knife in there and just wiggle it back and forth a little bit and make a cut right in there like that. Okay? You guys are pros because you've seen that. So there's just that cut right there. Okay.
While John's showing that, if you didn't bring a knife, we got some back here you guys can use. No insurance on them. That's sharp, they're not mine.
Those razor blade knives don't work very well. They're a good way to get a few extra stitches, okay?
Do I need a big knife?
Yeah, why don't you borrow a knife?
I didn't either. I just brought my same two.
Just 1/3 to 1/4 of the way down from the top. Okay. Now, you make that first cut, and there's a real temptation to rub your thumb across that cut. Don't do it, okay? Because you got oils on your fingers, and it'll keep that from caking. So over here on your cyan, you're gonna cut a third to a quarter of the way down, and just cut them down. Sometimes you'll cut through the back, and you make another cut, and then you just slide those together. Now, if your stock and cyan are the same size, then they'll match up, the cambiums will match up on both sides. Okay? If they don't match up, match the cambium up on one side. You usually want your stock to be a little larger than the cyan you're putting on. Yeah, that goes together. If you've done it really good and you hold it up to the light, you don't see light through the cut. Okay. You guys pros? No. Okay. Here's your set. Now just go together like that. That kind of holds it together. Now, it's real critical if you put this cyan on going right side up, okay? I guarantee somebody in here will put it on upside down. The buds go up. Buds are pointing up. See them? Okay? Now we've got people that just make one slice and put them together and tape them real tight. And those will take a lot of time. But this holds it together a little bit better. Okay, then you take some masking tape and you want to wrap this really tight. You don't have to put lots of layers on, you just want it tight. And you want that cambium, you want the cambium lined up on both sides of that if you can. Okay. That tree going to grow? Nope, it won't. It won't. Why won't that tree grow? This tree has a little tiny root system on here. This is going to bud out. There's going to be about 15 buds on here demanding water. Okay? It's just going to collapse and die. So we're going to increase our chances of getting this to take by clipping all those extra buds off and leaving 2 buds down here. Okay? And then we're going to seal the top to help keep it from drying out. You guys have never used nail polish before. I like the stuff that's got sparkles in it. These are all my daughter's rejects. Okay, we've got it grafted. We want to label it, okay? I guarantee Sean here can identify these trees from the wood. This is Sean right here. For those of you who don't know, he's our extension horticulturist here at this station. And he is really good at just about everything in horticulture. So, okay, we're going to label this. This is Priscilla on, what'd you give me, Ty? What rootstock did you give me? 111. Malling Merton period 111. So this is Priscilla on Malling Merton 111. We'll put this label on here. Now keep in mind, the end of the season, when you dig these up, you're not going to be able to read anything on here. That magic marker will fade out. So make a map of where you put these things, or get a Coke can and use one of those engravers to put the name on it, or make a good map. Okay, then we want to keep this root system from drying out, and we want a moist paper towel around that root system. Put it in the bag. Okay, now what do we want to do with this? Pardon me?
10 days in the house.
10 days in the house. 10 days, 2 weeks in the house. Keep it nice and warm. I'd put it in the dark. And in that time, this will heal together here. And then 10 days, it'll be the end of March. You can probably plant it out in the garden if it's not too wet, or put it back in the refrigerator to hold it. Now, what happens if I put this in the refrigerator with apples and cantaloupes and pears? Or just one of those?
Get your fruit cocktail.
It won't take.
It probably won't take, probably won't grow. Those apples and pears and tomatoes give off ethylene gas. That ethylene gas will go through this plastic bag, and it'll get your fruit tree, and it'll keep it from growing. So I found that if you triple bag them and seal them up there, you can put them in a refrigerator with fruit in them. If you put them in the refrigerator. So keep them away from ethylene gas, the same as with storing your rootstock. It will keep those buds from breaking in the spring. Okay, who likes licorice? Nobody likes licorice in here? Yeah, there we go. This is Priscilla. It's got a slight licorice flavor to the apple, okay? It's one of our disease-resistant varieties. It has good resistance to apple scab. It's got resistance to fire blight, cedar apple rust, and powdery mildew. So it's a nice one. Ripens about into August, beginning of September, in that time period. Okay, let me tell you a little bit about some of these signs we've got up here, and we'll let you go at it. I'm going to put the disease-resistant ones over here. Priscilla, we told you about. We've got Big Red. This is a spur tree. This is Big Red Gala. This is one that didn't quite make it in the commercial industry. Here we have Pink Lady, a really late ripening variety. It may not do really well over here. You've got a little shorter season. This one ripens up in late November in Georgia. But we've got a few growers growing this in Kentucky. Pristine. This is like a June apple. It has good scab resistance. It does get fire blight though, like Lodi does, but it is a disease-resistant one. Red June, early June apple. Red August. We're going by the months. I don't know that one. Yellow June. Gold Rush is a disease-resistant one. It's a really late maturing variety. It's the best storing variety we've got here. It has good scab resistance, good fire blight resistance, and it's a real nice tasting apple. Ben Davis. Anybody wants an heirloom apple? Not the greatest apple you've ever eaten, but we used to fill a lot of barrels with those years ago and ship them down the river. Red Delicious. Grimes Golden. This is an old-timey apple, a yellow one. Really nice eating one. You don't see this one too much, but a nice flavored one. Tends to do fairly well. Wine Sap. I won't say anything more about that. Hardy Cumberland. This is a variety that came out of Tennessee that is being sold now quite a bit. Gala, real fire blight susceptible. Golden Delicious. Melrose, this is a state apple of Ohio. It's a nice big red apple, a nice tasting apple. It is a little subject to fire blight. Second Ben Davis. Imperial Red Delicious. Okay. The first Red Delicious is named Hawkeye Red Delicious. That's this one. This tastes very different from the Red Delicious you buy in the grocery store. It doesn't color up very well, but it's a real sweet apple. After they planted this one out, after about 20 years, they started pruning their trees back pretty hard, and they forced a lot of latent buds. And they found out they had branches on the trees that had extra red apples, so they selected the double red apples. And they selected mutations from those that were the triple red apples. Those all tasted a lot like the original Red Delicious. Then they started getting into spur-type apples, And that's when the health aspects of apples went up because they're really highly colored. They've got lots of anthocyanins, lots of antioxidants in it, but they taste bitter to me. But color sells, and so Red Delicious is still sold quite a bit. Lodi, early June apple, good for frying, outstanding for applesauce. Fuji, red Fuji, this one doesn't color real well. Ripens late in the season, stores very well, pretty susceptible to fire blight. Wine Crisp, this is another one of the disease-resistant ones. It has resistance to all of the diseases. It does have some susceptibility to corpse spot or calcium disorder. But that's a really nice tasting one. A little on the order of wine sap. We've got some more Gold Rush here. Honey Crisp. This is another really tough one to grow. Golden Delicious again. Dayton. This is an early disease-resistant early variety, ripens in early August. Liberty, another disease-resistant one, more on the order of Macintosh. It comes in end of August, beginning of September. July Tart, early ripening Granny Smith that's real susceptible to fire blight. Florina, this is one of Terry Jones's favorite apple. Ripens in late September. Chesapeake, this is a variety out of Kentucky, out of Browning's Orchard up in around Moorhead. It's more of a Rome type apple, maybe a mutation of Rome. Spartan, this is a nice, fairly well coloring Macintosh. It's a very disease resistant one, ripens in September. Royal Empire, cross between Macintosh and Red Delicious, a nice coloring apple for us with a good flavor. Molly's Delicious, this is a cross that one of the former members of our department made when he was at Rutgers. This is a really nice red apple that ripens in mid-August, makes good pies, good firm fresh market apple. Red Free, this is a disease-resistant one. It's got some susceptibility to fire blight, ripens up in August. Got too many varieties for you here. Here we have some more Pristine and Enterprise. Enterprise is a really disease-resistant one that ripens mid-October or so. I'll let you have at it. We'll work with you. We've got a few extra knives up here. If you want to borrow a grafting knife. We've got labels up here. We've got markers.